I think most people thought it was pretty ballsy of Matt Rule to go all in on the top QB in the country, knowing full well his chances of getting that guy were pretty slim, especially since he's the type of coach who wants to take a high school quarterback that he can develop for the long term. But when or I guess the better way to say it is, when you have this much confidence in your staff and what you're building, there's no question that no matter how deep you are in the hole, you're still going to make it out and spin it into a positive situation. And in this case, that hole was pretty deep. 23 of the top 30 QBs in this class are already committed, and the other 7 are down to their final 2. Nebraska's only legit target at this point, at least publicly, was Raiola, and now that we can move on from that fantasy, Satterfield and Rule had to figure out how they could still land a commitment for 2024 since Purdy and Harburg are both going to be juniors after this year. Remember, they went all in on Raiola. They didn't get visits from other quarterbacks, and I'm guessing they didn't build that many meaningful relationships with many either. So the fact that Satterfield was able to go to a Nebraska kid who was clearly a second choice and get him to decommit from an SEC school that prioritized him, that's a major win. In the past, we saw guys like Zane Flores and Cade McIntyre feel disrespected, and they both left for the Big 12. Rule and Satterfield somehow convinced Kaelin that even though he was the plan B, he still belonged in Lincoln over Missouri, and that's impressive. It's pretty clear that Kaelin was at the top of the list after Raiola fell through because he's the number 1 QB in the state, and Rule's made a point that he won't lose on big-name Nebraska players the same way Scott Frost did. If all the in-state high school guys take pride in where they come from, there are going to be less questions around some of the big-name recruits in the future who are going to get offers from Notre Dame or whoever else finds them from the Big 12 or the SEC. I know some people think that Kaelin's commitment means maybe Nebraska has a better shot at Carter Nelson or at least Davon Hall since they play on the same high school team, but my guess is those two guys are waiting to see how the offense looks this year if they're going to pull the trigger. The interesting one to watch will be receiver Isaiah McMorris, who plays at Bellevue West too, and he's got offers from OU, Penn State, and Wisconsin. But after Kaelin announced that he was decommitting from Mizzou, Isaiah quote tweeted and showed that he was interested to see what that next move would be. I think the significance of this commitment is less about getting a 3-star QB in this class and more about getting on track with the recruiting priority, which is keeping the in-state kids in the state. Kaelin's 6'2", 200 and threw for almost 3,200 yards and 36 touchdowns as a junior, but his NFL comparison is Kirk Cousins. And my understanding is that the offense is being built around 2 QBs who are track guys, and I just can't imagine moving to a pro-style QB after they build the offense with Sims, who can run the zone read and be an extra running back for third and short situations. If you read his recruiting profile on 24/7, it says he's got a 5-to-1 TD to interception ratio, which is awesome. He's got good arm strength and he's really effective as an intermediate passer, but he's not a true running threat. And I'm not trying to knock the guy since he's talented enough to start in the Power 5, but I am really curious to see how the offense looks this year, and if they do have success with Sims, who can run a 4.4, how's that going to affect what Satterfield wants to do in the future? I think what surprises me the most about this commitment is that Rule opted to take a pocket passing QB in this cycle, because in 2023, you don't have to take quarterbacks out of high school. Every year, schools like SC, Georgia, and Ohio State end up with too many 4- or 5-star guys, and a few of them are forced to hit the portal. And when that happens, Nebraska's a great option for a redshirt freshman who spent a year at another big-time program and wants a chance to start sooner than he would have at the other school. Again, I don't want you to get confused. I love that Rule was able to keep the 4th best player in Nebraska home and that he didn't lose him to the SEC. But honestly, I don't get worried about quarterbacks anymore, because since 2017, 3 of the 6 QBs who started games in Nebraska were from the portal, and I'm not going to be surprised if we see that trend continue. The top 3 guys with odds to win the Heisman this year are Caleb Williams, Michael Penix, and Bo Nix, and all 3 of those dudes started their journeys at different schools. And that brings me to one more point I got to address, because I've had a few people send messages about it. There's this belief by some that Dylan Raiola might go to Georgia, not start right away, and decide to transfer out to Nebraska. But here's the reality of that situation. They're going to lose one of their 2 current big names on the roster to the portal in, let's say the next 12 months. So by the time Dylan gets to his second year, his competition is going to be even easier than he expected it to be. I know nothing's ever certain and anything can happen along the way, but in my head, that ship sailed completely, and I'm just excited to see if they can develop a true dual threat and show future guys what a good run-first offense would look like. I know I went on a tangent, and this ended up being way more than just my thoughts on Daniel Kaelin's commitment, but I am excited that they flipped him, and I think it's only going to help for the future. But I am going to stay patient and not get overly excited one way or the other till we see how this offense looks in the Big Ten. But I want to know what you think. Is Daniel Kaelin the QB of the future at Nebraska, or is he just the first one out of high school that this staff got to buy into their vision? Do you think his commitment helps with some of the other highly touted in-state recruits, or does Nebraska need to win some games to spark some more interest from guys who are 4 stars or better? And the last question, because I know you got to get out of here. Do you prefer the idea of taking a high school recruit and developing him, or going for somebody with some college film from the portal? The NIL money is going to more portal guys in high school, so there's something to be said for the players who've proved they can play at a higher level before they start getting cashed out. But that's all I've got for today, so until next time, thank you for being here, and I'll see you in the next one. Go Big Red.